Okay, so in this video here, I'm going to show you how to replace the left-hand hydro block on a Worcester Green Start. And this is just typical symptoms of what they do. When I take the case off, I'll show you. They leak from everywhere underneath when they fail. And they usually misting water out. I haven't actually seen where this one's coming from. I've just been asked here to come here after an engineer's gone off sick. So hopefully inside here, I'll be able to show you it misting everywhere within the boiler. So I'll get this case off and we will have a look. Okay, so this is the boiler opened up. And if you look in here at the manifold, you can see this is where it's leaking. And it mists out. Sometimes that spray can be so fine you can't see it. It will just mist out everywhere. And what gives the game away is the white marks. But sometimes that spray will be super fine and will wet everything within the boiler here and it will drip everywhere. So this is one of the more difficult ones, got the bypass, that's often the hardest bit. Now I don't usually remove anything to do with the right hand side of the boiler. So hopefully this will be the same and I can show you how I go about doing that. So first thing I'm going to do is remove the, well, first thing I'm going to do is turn the power off, remove the condense trap, and I will go from there. Okay, so this is just a condense hose for a condense pump, which I find very useful for Worcesters. Brilliant. The gauge doesn't work, or if it does, it's slow. You can hear the AAV sucking in, so the boiler must be nearly empty. We're in a house here, so I'm gonna isolate the flow and return. I've already turned off the cold mains. So I'm getting this all ready. O-rings are in. This piece of rubber here, quite important, I often forget that, that's in. So basically I'm just going to change all the washers and O-rings I have, grease everything like the bypass connection, get everything greased and ready to go back together, change all the washers and everything in here on the NTC, the valves, clean up the plate, change the washer on the bypass there, make sure the washer is off here, and it is. Just get it back together. And just for your information, if you're really struggling to get it off the bypass, you can undo that nut there, obviously with the gas isolator, take that whole pipe out of the way. It does make life a lot easier, but I just wanted to prove to myself I was sure you could do it without doing that, and you can. So, okay, so now I've pulled out this clip here on the other end of the bypass. So I'm going to pull out the bypass. I don't take that clip out till this is all out, because you need this pipe to be held solid so you can pull it off it. Now that that's out, I pull that pipe out, replace the O-ring on that end there, and that end there, clean that hole up and grease it, and then I'm nearly ready to get things back together now. So I've changed the O-ring on the NTC. I've changed every O-ring here. This pipe, the O-ring's changed and ready to go back in. I change all the O-rings one by one. So I know everything here. I mean, one of these is going to be spare, okay, because we didn't take the whole lot off. Same as this. So they are spare. And what we have left is the two bypasses and that big plastic one, the screw for the plate, and one clip for the bypass. So the other clip for the bypass is down here somewhere. There it is. So I know that as long as all that lot goes back in, I've changed every washer and O-ring I can that I've disturbed, and fingers crossed everything else here is going to be okay. So here's the bypass pipe out, and here is your bypass. So it's just simply a spring-loaded non-return valve. Just make sure it goes in the right way, and it's that way. Goes in that way like that, with the black piece facing into the pump. Alright, so look, as you can see, I've taken one O-ring off. I'm going to change that O-ring, change that O-ring. The last O-ring I change is the bit that goes with that. All of this is about remembering which way things go. So I do it bit by bit. This is almost impossible one-handed, I must say. Don't lose this screw. That's the one that goes up there and there. So remember the rules, nothing's tight here yet. Yeah? You just, everything's hand tight. Clips are in, everything's greased so it all moves nicely. Now I've got to do this top connection here. That can be fun sometimes. I often put my hand in here and try and pull that pipe up, or I pop a screwdriver in the gap here, but it can then be difficult to get the little ears on this into it if you do it that way. So I need two hands again for this, but it's now just popping this in. Okay, so you can see the little ears here. There's the little metal clip there. So now this copper pipe will push down from above If you look here, see it wiggles quite nicely. It's a bit awkward to get on, but you can just get that push down. Sometimes you can get this on without having to mess about up the top. Let's see. There we go. There we go. That went on quite easily, nice and tight. As with everything with O-rings, put it in, push the clip in and try and pull them out. So I'm going to tighten that screw there, tighten up these two nuts, then I'll unisolate the appliance, turn all the water on, get some pressure in it, check it before I put the condense trap and whatnot back in. Don't know why it's so blurry. Okay, so I just took the condense hose off, closed that. It's tight. Okay, so pressure gauge got a problem. So I'm going to remove that and see if I can unblock that. So we are now tight on all of this. This is closed, pipes are all in, it's all tight. It meets the heat exchanger nicely. I'm putting my hand back there to do that. It's all together, solid. So just going to do this gauge and then put all this back in the boiler. Well, put the condense trap back in the boiler after I've cleaned it out, obviously. So just so you know, if you're ever wondering, this is for a boiler that doesn't have a bypass. They're good to keep because occasionally you might want to blank something off in another boiler. So handy to keep a couple of them floating around. Have a look in there. Looks clear. So it's just this. To be fair, that looks clear as well, doesn't it? Anyway, we'll see what I can do. Okay, so here we are, still stuck on a bar, just over a bar. As you can see, I can't see anything in there. So I'm going to try and, let's see if I can balance. All these tools. Okay. So it ain't working, so I'm going to straighten it out. Well, let's see how far it will go. That's how far that will go, not far enough. Let's try this other one. It's usually pretty good. Just work it in there a little bit. Pressure still on one bar. Still on one bar. Okay. So this is getting all the way down to the bend. So we are not going to get this unblocked unless we straighten it. And hopefully we don't break it. I've straightened that now. I'll take this super fine rod, put it down there, see if we can get that unblocked. No, it's going the full length. So this needs a new gauge. Very unfortunate. Never mind. So we'll just have to grease this, put it back in. Okay, I found it easier not to grease these. I used to grease them, I found they kept popping out when I was trying to put them in, so I just make sure they're clean and dry, put them back in. So I'm just going to do that now with my towel and get this trap back in. As you can see, I've cleaned the trap out as best I could. Okay. That's in there now. Let's get the rest of this done. Actually, let's turn the mains on first. So, moment of truth on the main side. Just on a crack. So that's under mains pressure now. So check all the main side, which is this, that's the hot, that pipe. Follow it up onto there, it's good. That's the domestic hot water NTC on there with the orange plug, that looks good. Look at where they always fail, which is back here, that's good. And it appears it's all good on the plate heat exchanger. So that's all good. Oh yeah, by the way, one day I'll show you how to do these. I've got three different methods. Yeah, 3 different methods to do them. Usually within an hour. So I charge a set price for doing them. If any of you guys want to give me the work, that'd be great. So nothing's dripping. Why is it so blurry? There we go, nothing's dripping. Turn it on full. That's that done. I'm just going to dry up underneath that bypass there, so that I know if that leaks. And I'm going to get some pressure in the heating system. How do I know how much pressure's in it? I hear you ask. I don't. When the AAV stops, I know I should be at about 0 bar, right? Or just above 0 bar. Let's do some visuals. No evidence of heat escaping there because them leads are still looking like silicone. Red seal actually looks quite new. That red seal goes very pink if any heat's been escaping. Looks all very dark red to me. Yeah, see down the side it all looks nice and dark red. So it doesn't look like any heat's been escaping up there. We'll do the negative fan pressure when we do the combustion ratio. That grey pipe is in, that sometimes separates, especially on the CDIs and RWBs. Don't appear to have any leaks. So there is a way I could guesstimate how much is in there, and that's that old pressure vessel trick. So what I would do is flatten the vessel down and put my pump on it, and then top up the pressure till I got to about half a bar showing on my pump while it was on there with the gauge, and then I would pump it up to a bar and be happy that there's a bar in the boiler and, you know, half a bar, 3/4 of a bar in the vessel, and then wait till the gauge comes to thing. But I'm pretty sure I can get this right just by experience, so we'll see. You can all hate me in the comments for that one, but I'm pretty sure I'll get enough water in this for it to run safely until we get a gauge. Okay, so this is back in. Sometimes it can be very hard to know if this nut is tight, and if you over tighten it or get grips on it, you can break this, the threaded bit. So the way I do it is I tighten it up until when I wiggle it, the nut and the pipe below turn with it. So I will, I'm going to run this till the trap obviously fills. I'll probably, you know, do that while I'm doing my my safety checks. So remember, I'm going to do FAGs, which is flue, air, gas, and safety. So combustion analysis, the flue's good, I've usually checked that already. Negative fan pressure, gas rate it, and do it on high low. So I'm going to do, while I do the high, I'm going to do the negative fan pressure, okay? And then I'm going to walk out and gas rate it. So all them 3 things are done within a matter of minutes. And then I will check the FFD. The ventilation is fine. So let's see. Let's get this readjusted. .8. Flashing away. Perfect. Take this out. See what we get on low now. So I'll be back. Too low, eh? Too low. What a pain in the butt. So you come for one thing, you end up dealing with others. So when you're doing the low, right, when you're doing the high combustion ratio, you do it like a tap. If you need it to go higher on the CO, you undo the tap. When you're doing it on the low, it's the opposite. So I need this 8.7 to come up a bit, okay? So I would close the tap down a bit, tighten it, just a fraction, okay? So when you do the low, it's always the opposite to the high, and the high is like a tap. You want the CO to be higher, you would open the tap up. If you want the CO to be lower, you would close the tap down. So as you saw, I just closed the tap down. Still waiting. Anyway, while I'm waiting for that, I'll take this off. Right, I want to thank whoever told me about this tip here. You want to make your tube tighter, just roll it back on itself. That really works, helps out a lot. 8.8, let's tighten it down a little bit more, just a fraction. Done the gas rate was good. Right, so now we're within Worcester spec, but as we're setting it, we may as well get it at 9.2. And then we've got to check the high again, because now we've adjusted the low, it will affect the high. So come back when the low's done. Wonderful. By the way, that I've already had that at 9.2, I just brought that and put it back in so I can show you, because I had it stable on 9.2. So now we've got to check the high again, which is exactly what we're doing now. Looking pretty good, and the pressure's the pressure hasn't gone anywhere, funny enough, but the boiler's running fine, hasn't overheated. No water seems to be going out of the PRV. 9.8 on the high, negative -5, I'll check that. Looks like we're good to go. Saying that, we're good to go, but I must check. I'll put the case on it. And make sure that it's all correct, to make sure we've got no leaks on this heat extractor up here or anything like that. And that will be me done. Okay, case is back on, it's all tight, still got in service mode. Boiler's ramping up, everything's back on underneath, these annoying screws are in. Combustion is going to be good. So if we had a problem with a Fluke, we would find the CO parts per million would start going sky high, which it isn't doing. You know, that would already be at thousands of parts per million if there was a problem with that Fluke. So we're all good on that. Just going to do FFD check and that's it.